Good morning, Shruti.
Hi, Sami. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I saw you are not able to make that time slot, at the OCP summit where, I was thinking that everyone can meet. But I think
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah, Shruti. The problem is during the time I'm running the OSF project, I'm co-lead there. I need to be there, and also CSM project Workstream is all starting at 2:30, 12:30 to 5.
Okay.
So if you guys want to go ahead and meet, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you think if you have other time, like you were suggesting Tuesday 4 to 5 or 4:30 to 5:30, that probably the better time for me, looks like.
Yeah, actually, something happened and like a different customer meeting got scheduled there.
Okay, okay.
So that's why I couldn't move ahead with that. Um, this time seems to work for at least a few folks. I don't know about DJ yet, but it works for, Eric, and Alex is himself not there, but there is a representative who's present, and Mohan and Ari, and I think Daniel is accepted.
Okay, okay. Yeah, if you are able to get quorum, go for it, right? I'm okay. I think we can probably sync up offline.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Also, is there a recording of the previous meeting because I missed the previous meeting? Is there
I need to figure out how it's recorded. When
yeah,
I asked the Michael, he said it's recorded, but it's not automatically posted to the uh, work stream, it seems. So we need
okay,
to figure out how do we get the recording and give a pointer there.
okay, okay. Otherwise, I think like generally Zoom has a rule to also delete the recordings in 30 days.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think by default it's that unless, OCP Zoom has changed the rule, then you can change it.
So
So
yeah, I
before
need
that,
to.
we should just post it otherwise.
Yeah. Um, I need to figure out where the recording goes. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, let me figure out. I think otherwise you were right. I think we spend a lot of time, then finally we lose all the content, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Right.
Hello everyone. This is Gopi.
Hi, Gobi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, the only main topic I would like to discuss today, see whether we can uh, figure out is I'm kind of thinking how do we represent, we were talking about partial IUE, partial PUE, right? Um, how are we going to be able to represent that partial at I know at a node level we can do it. I'm still struggling to figure out how do we represent at a rack level and DC level, right? Um,
Right.
and I think that we need some alignment. Um, at least what we want to message it now and what we want to recommend there. And before going on to that discussion, do we have any opens?
So you were talking about partial PUE that we wanted to find.
Yeah, so we talked about so we are talking about IUE at load, right? We know if we know the load, if you even if you look at it, right, we can say active ideal is 0 and we are peak is 100, somewhere in between, per system you can understand.
Mhm.
Now, if I translate that into, say, if I want to put a rack level, so each node has its own load, right? It's not all the nodes has the same load.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if I want to say rack level load, how do you want to represent that, right? If I say it's a homogeneous system, I could probably sum all the load of the system. I mean, let us say one node is 20%, one node is 80%. I could say like its median is a load, right? Or if I have like everything, I can add them up, divide by number of nodes, you get a kind of load factor for the rack. But if it is not homogeneous system, meaning you have some GPUs and you have CPUs and you have storage, everything sitting there. How do you want to say it's a load? Is it just how much power it's consuming? And even if you say it's power, we are really saying it's ideal. The load is 0 here, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just in the beginning confirming because I did miss one session. We spoke about partial PUE already. Is that right?
We talked about partial PUE.
Okay.
But partial PUE means you are saying the load number, right? If it is PUE, basically we are saying it's how much the data center is consuming, how much you are getting from utility and how much it's going to the IT, right?
Right. Yeah.
It does not have load factor. There's no partial there, right? It is what is getting utilized. But the thing is, if one data center saying I am PUE number and another data center saying another PUE number, are we talking about the same load?
Correct. Yeah.
It's not, right? That's what the problem we are trying to highlight. It's difficult to compare one person's PUE with another person's PUE unless we add the load factor there, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the reason we are working on the IUE.
Okay.
So that you can
I
summarize and up level it and say like, hey, now I can say PUE with a load factor, so you know like how efficient you are operating, right?
Okay. I see why you're doing the IUE, partial IUE first. Okay.
So that's the reason I'm kind of thinking we want to say that we want still working on it. We don't have a clear definition for it, right? I think that's probably okay for the summit to say that, but also at the same time trying to kind of start thinking, hey, what do we want to really represent, right? If I say rack level load, do I sum everything? Sum all the nodes and divide by like node count, right?
Number of nodes. Yeah.
Yeah, number of nodes, right?
Yeah, that may not be a good representation, right? It's just kind of taking an average, right? So
Correct. And also, if you know it's a homogeneous system or rack, I agree. At least you can say
yeah,
ballpark number. We can agree on that.
yeah. For a HPC class of clusters, it
Right.
makes sense, but non-HPC, no.
Right. So the question is how to deal with non-homogeneous nodes, non-homogeneous systems, right?
Right, heterogeneous, yeah.
It's how to deal with the heterogeneous systems, right?
Because as we move forward, the equation is going to change. You may have 1 GPU, 2, 16, 64 GPUs plus FPGAs plus everything, storage, JBODs, etc. So it just becomes a quite complex, equation.
Yeah, then I think the question comes down, is there any performance number you want to use to say, hey, my data center is going to do so many ops, right? Now, if I'm producing I'm just throwing some number, right? I don't know, trillion ops data center, you want to say it's 50% means half of it, right? That is one way of saying it, right? Or is it kind of saying like, I have max power I'm just going to divide it and say it, right? But then all our ideal things goes away, right?
Yeah, especially with the cloud,
Right.
equation is totally different. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're renting, you have no idea about the utilization. You won't get into, inside of it other than, right, what power goes in. That's about it, right?
Right, right. And if you go with ops, right, you could say I have 1 trillion ops, but I'm renting only like 50% of it. 50% I'm using internally, maybe, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be a area we really need to settle on. Like, I know we are defining all the partial load. Now, how can I summarize? Like, if I do this rack level, I can say IUE. So if I say DC IUE, something like this, right? I need to figure out how to put in the same word here. If I say DC, it's again a sum of racks, right? So then again, sum of the racks. So basically, how do you kind of put it for a DC, right? Is it equal to sum of racks of all racks?
So when you're writing sum of all nodes, you're doing a node level ID, correct?
Right, right. I think what I'm saying is we have a problem.
Yeah.
First, you need to go to node level. Node level, we have a definition. Right? We have this definition, node level, what we want to do. Now I want to take this node level and convert to a rack level. Then I cannot use this formula.
No.
Because this is not going to be a representation of heterogeneous system.
So if you want to do rack level, basically you have the node level load. You want to add all the nodes in one rack.
Correct.
I'm just trying to see why are you dividing by the number of nodes then?
So the reason is it's a load factor, right? Say 50% you are operating. One node is operating at 50%. Another load is operating at 70%. Another node is operating is 30%.
Right.
Is that rack is operating at 50%.
Oh, you're okay. You want to average between the workload on all of those nodes. Okay.
Right. Then only you are saying a load node or rack level load. If you want to put some percentage, that's how you can put it, right?
Yeah.
And either you have to use something like this, but it's not good. If you want to use, I don't know, a transaction or other things, then it becomes complicated, right? What metrics you want to use for that thing, right?
Just a step back, when we develop the spec cloud level benchmark,
Right.
just from the application performance perspective, we used to have something called application instances, and then which is a comprehensive of 8 or 10 workloads, right? So we go back and, measure those loading to the maximum level, and then also go at specific intervals, and then we kind of, develop some equations to say what is the performance that you need to measure. Now we are adding power into this equation. Is there something similar performance benchmarks can be used? For example, if I run spec CPU, right, 100% it takes, right? So then you run something else. So that way you have a comprehensive representation rather than just averaging it out.
That's what I was asking originally, right? Ops.
Yeah.
Right. Node ops and
Right.
rack ops and DC ops or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah. Because the industry agreed, right? So kind of a representative workloads. That way you can dial to the maximum level. Of course, you have measurements all along the way. Then you can go back and, kind of, map it and see what does it mean, right? That way you're factoring in various CPUs into the mix, for example, right? So that may be something, to think about.
Yeah. So then again, what is the TOPS definition, right?
Yeah.
Then there is two questions comes into picture, right? Now, when I deploy the system, I need to put ops, and also while I'm running, you need to have something like ops measurement rather than load measurement, right?
Yeah. Just I'm thinking in the direction. I don't know, right? So maybe,
yeah, that's the same discussion I had even with the Mohan. Like, hey, how do we do it? It's complicated. You need to have alignment here, right? What is the agreed upon things that we can recommend, right?
Right. Because when I used to run workloads for NASA, large scale clusters, right, I used Graph 500, benchmark with different benchmark, parameters like, Choi problem, 22 to 23, 25, etc., etc. Then that determines the number of nodes. And then also I generate the threads and loading patterns. And I never measured power because power was not the issue at all. The goal was to get maximum performance out of it and say, what is the infrastructure I need to have, 1,000 nodes or 5,000 nodes. So that was the method which was used, at the time. So now power is being brought in. It will be interesting, because of the heterogeneous mix of workloads and other things. I need to think about it.
Right. Yeah, we need to kind of start thinking about it in this area. I think that's on. I'm going to call it as an open.
Yeah.
That need to be defined. But as a community, we should start thinking about how do we. There is two things, right? One is you can put a numbers. Now then, are there data center operators are willing to disclose what are they operating it currently, right?
Yeah.
Or they just want to publish a theoretical number. Hey, if I operate my data center at 50% load, here is the number is going to look like. I'm not going to tell you what I'm consuming right now, but operating it right now, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But still, we are really asking, give us a number so that we can compare data center to data center, right?
So we are sort of going on two possible tracks. Either we get that load via power or by performance. Right? That's
but when we are saying by power, we are not getting the accurate, we are not getting any incentives there, right?
Sorry, we are not getting?
Any incentives for optimizing.
Not getting any incentives.
So what I mean by that is, let us say even PUE today, you are getting power from the utility, right?
Right.
If I optimized my cooling and I put all the power back to my data center, after that you are not giving any incentive for people trying to optimize it further, right? So what I mean to say is, once PUE becomes one, right? Then when PUE is one, there is no incentive for optimizing the data center at all, right? IUE tries to bring a incentive for optimizing it, but question is how we want to do it.
Okay, but just first particular approach that you've written, where you are averaging between the nodes, that is actually based on power, because our per node was based on power.
No, it's based on load. That's what I'm trying to say here, right? So if you look at the formula here, IUE load, active power coming into the node, and what is that gets consumed on that load. Then if you go back to this graph, for idle power, when we say load 0, that means you're still consuming some power.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I mean, that it is based on power. You're
Correct,
actually,
right? It's based on power with the load number
yeah,
as a parameter, right? So whenever you say the IUE, if you don't say the load factor, you are basically just saying, hey, what I'm consuming it. But then you are not comparing to apple, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem that we are trying to solve. What number you want to cover? Maybe people can say 0, I can measure peak, because at the deployment, I know what is 0 and peak is going to be. And I will not able to measure in between, right? That may be the path we can initially take, but then again, people are optimizing it further. Like if I have a linear curve versus if I have a going like this, you're not giving any incentive at all, right? If I say from 0 to this, it goes linear, then it's good. But it peaks even before reaching the complete load, right? Then you're not giving any incentive. Or if the curve is totally different, you're not getting any incentive at all, right?
okay, yeah, I agree to that part.
So the goal here is to establish a standard so that all the DC operators report, using standard set of methods so that you can compare data center A to B to
Correct.
C, etc. Right?
Right.
That's the
Right.
goal.
Correct.
But since we have a varied, DC, operations, right? Because you have heterogeneous mix of servers, cooling methodologies are different, whole bunch of things. It's quite a complex to come up with a set of standard, right? That's my.
Yeah. That's why we want to break it down and try to solve the problem, right? So again, if you look at what we are doing at OCP level, so you need to enable at system level and rack level parameters so that you can aggregate them together. Then what I'm saying is, if you're not going to use these things at all, then each node does not need to represent anything at all, right? You just measure at your what do you call it, power line input and measure that thing, call it good, right? Then what are we doing in OCP?
I hear you.
Can you go to your slide 19 once?
Come again, Shruti?
Can you go to your slide 19 once? I thought it said. Okay, no, sorry, never mind.
Yeah, so this one, but we are saying here, Shruti, is so we know the total power goes in here, and what is the green box is taking it, right? All other things are wasted.
Right.
And that's what we want to minimize. And what we are trying to put a formula is, total power minus what is lost in thermal. You can use any cooling, right? Fan cooling, or you can use water cooling or liquid, whatever it is, right? Our VR's loss, power conversion loss, or in ideal, you're going to have losses, right? If I remove all those things, I get the computational power. So that works. Again, this numbers based on the load, right? Because if I put a 0 here, it only shows the ideal loss, and probably thermal loss and all very low, right?
And this idle losses is what you're saying, basically the power consumed when, the node or the server is actually idle.
Yeah, no, its power is wasted, no work is performed, right?
Okay.
So that's, if you can give an incentive for those, people will try to reduce idle power. Why are we wasting power?
Sure.
Well, you have to leave it at a deep sleep state, right? If not, the latency will increase. So there is a consequence there.
I know its consequences are there, but if you incentivize the people who's optimizing it, then the people will go and try to find a better mechanisms, right?
Yeah, because if you all the three thermal power conversion idle, if you put all of them to zero, it'll become unit, right? One, pretty much.
Right. So, for example, if you take networks, my understanding today, it is never goes to deep sleep. It's all operating at a full power, right?
Yeah.
And the load of network can be zero, still full power.
Yeah, there's another,
Right.
challenge there, right? You don't want put network to a,
Right,
sleep
right,
state or
right,
anything
right,
like that, right? So
right.
because, yeah, so
You can see, yeah, but you can argue that I am going to amortize that across the other things in the rack. So when you compute at a data center level, that network is washed out, right?
Mhm.
I need to put a better picture for the network and everything here.
yeah, top of the rack switch and all those stuff. Yeah.
So just start thinking about it, and when we meet again, maybe even from our discussion out of our OCP, right? Let us figure out what is the better metrics you want to use it here, right?
Okay.
So the other question I had, I want to kind of on the roadmap side, right?
Sorry, just one thing before you go to the roadmap discussion.
Right.
Can't we think of applying the same thing directly at the rack level? Like if I did total rack power minus idle power of the rack minus if I can measure conversion losses.
Yeah, you can get it for ideal and as well as 100%, right?
Right.
But in between is the problem.
But I just essentially want to do the full rack power minus its idle losses. Oh, I actually want to do at a particular load.
Right. That's the problem.
See, that's what when we design these cooling algorithms, right? We do a calibration study, right? Or the system level fans with various PWM settings, pulse width modulation settings, and then with different load conditions, all those stuff. And then we look at the delta T temperature across the node, and then we measure it, and then we go back and design it to make sure that, right? So we have an algorithm built in which goes into the firmware that way it automatically keeps within that service level in a way, right?
Right.
That's what it is. But now a lot of people are eliminating with the system fans itself, right? Hey, rack level fan is more than enough for me. If a SLA kicks in, I can dial up and down the rack level fan or control memory processor, etc., throttle it and go from there, right? So that we are operate at a given power service level agreement or performance level based, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So max TDP of rack is known, right? Then max load is 100. We can say load is 100 and ideal is 0. Then you have power for the ideal, assuming everything is ideal. What is the number, But in between, if you want to put a number, what is that means?
When you say in between, it is like if I say at 50% load on the rack.
Right.
Yeah, because most of the data center operators are based on what workloads they are running.
Right.
The utilize load varies. For example, I dealt with one of the customer which has 16,000 nodes, which has database running at 92 to 95%, right? So whereas if you take other, usages, it was 30 to 60, 65%. So it's kind of, it varies based on what they are running.
Yeah, and also the thing is you can have a 1U, 2U, and all kind of thing different servers, right?
Right.
You treat them as equal, or you based on node count, or you treat them as based on how many things sitting there, right?
how many use? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, they used to
The
use some
load on-
performance. Oh, sorry, go ahead then.
No, I was just going to say for the load on the rack, because that is the point at which we are saying we are not able to accurately measure the
Or define
amount.
what that means.
Yeah, we are not able to define, like, the load on the rack. Can't that be considered as an average of the load on each node in the rack?
That's what, right? We are saying if you put this on, that means average, right?
Right, but here you're directly taking the IUE numbers. I thought you're taking the IUE number already and summing that and doing an average of that. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have the
Sum of all IUEs divided by
Yeah.
number of nodes. Right?
Okay, so what I was asking was if we can actually do the average of the load on all the nodes to get what is the load on the rack. Then we can state that the rack power at this particular node is whatever is measured.
So that's what we said, right? If it is heterogeneous system, how do we say it? Sum of all node IUEs IEE basically the load, right? Then divide by number of nodes. But if it is heterogeneous system, is that the right measurement?
Yeah, because nowadays the nodes constitute of so many things, right? FPGAs plus
Right.
GPUs 1 to 64. So that means, it'll become may not be accurate representation, right?
Right. So maybe some fine tuning needed
Yeah.
to figure out what is that really like you want to say it, right? I think it's basically like a node IUE. See here.
Yeah, let me look at the cloud benchmark, which was developed quite a number of years back to see how, it's been a while. So I'll look at it and see
Sure.
how we can add power into the equation and then see what methods can be devised,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere it may not be 100% accurate,
Yeah,
but at least
definitely,
we want to
sure.
get some average that we people can agree on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like I said, right, if it is 2U and 1U, then you need to give some weight for those nodes. Not every node is equal. Some nodes need to give a higher weight.
Yeah.
Then the question is how do we come up with the weight?
Right.
What is that metric for it, right?
Right. Yeah, because everybody company comes up with their own thing, right? If it's a database, they say how many requests per second, or
Right.
if it's a e-commerce, they'll say how many HTTP, pages I kind of presented, billion pages.
Right.
And then how many transactions went through from an e-commerce perspective that treated as success. So the metrics really varies, from the load perspective. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, sure, sir. Shruti, any other comments before we go to the?
No, not right now.
Okay. So the thing on the roadmap, right? One couple of things we really want to write the white paper, and also we want to. This is what we are trying to say, right? We want to give a next level details. I think that is what we are working on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am not putting any timeline. I think that's one thing, right? We are all discussing it. Do you want to put some timeline here or leave it as a kind of ongoing thing? That's where I'm kind of looking, right? So we need to define the matrices. We need to come with an alignment on what is the right load number and other things we want to use. Then we want to put some goals, say whether we want to say target for some middle of next year or is there anything that we want to propose?
Is there any timeline you are shooting for, like a quarter, 2 quarters, something, or we can define our own path here? So
yeah, I'm trying to work from tops down, like Shruti, like from sustainability project side, right?
So
what is the top-down goal that we are trying to target for, then metrics need to align with that goal, right?
right. So I mean, overall, they have 3 particular goal areas they want to concentrate on, but timeline-wise, there isn't a hard and fast, direction on how quickly each work stream should sort of produce an output or produce a paper or spec or something. I would actually first ask, because Sammy, because you are leading this thing, what seems a practical timeline for you?
So once you have high level alignment on those definitions, then we can say like, hey, next level we want to go down, right? That's, I think we need help on the high level. Hey, what does that means? Like, even if you say a UE load, what does that means from higher level? We need to have alignment. And the thing is, second level alignment is even if you define something, is people ready to publish that, right?
Okay. So do we think that, in the sessions, next week is obviously summit. So we have like, I'd say 2 months of this year, or a little less than 2 months, because, there'll be Thanksgiving in the middle of that also.
Right.
So do we think in 8 discussions max, we can, have relevant people called in and discuss this? Like, we can basically point it out to folks also if we want some folks to be on call so that the discussion is meaningful.
So we can say like this, right? See whether you agree with it, right? Our goal is by end of the year, we want to define some metrics and put a draft for review. Right? It may not be closed, but we want to publish it so that people can review and comment, and we can. And next year we could probably fine tune and make a final concrete thing, right?
Yeah, then we are saying that we'll at least get quite a bit of the alignment within this year then.
Right.
Right.
That is one. Or we can say you can use first quarter, like it's already October, so November people and going on Thanksgiving and Christmas is not much activity, so we can target for first quarter. To say like we will publish that in the first quarter, and then maybe by OCP next year, Global Summit, we have all the definitions at least aligned, right?
Yeah, one thing is, I feel like maybe let's try to get most of the alignment, and even if it's a very basic draft, maybe let's try to do that in this year, because so right now you are like, on a continuous cycle and it's progressing. There will be a break.
Right.
And that pause in the end of the year will again make it some effort to pick it up next year.
Right.
So in that sense, I feel like if we basically continue and at least get that some alignment and put together whatever we aligned on in the paper.
Okay. Yeah, let us document it and call out the special opens. Right?
Yeah, we call out whatever is not discussed or whatever is the gap we think.
Right. Then we are basically summarizing this year's work. So then we will try to address the gaps in the next year to finalize it.
Sure. At some point, it may be in stage 2 or phase 2, whichever you call, you will have a high-level architecture, software controls, APIs, and integrations and measurements. That will be in the phase 2, or is it? I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, that is going to be in phase 2, right? I think we are kind of bottoms up this one, right? In the tops down from sustainability, they will come up with a high-level architecture, how that whole thing is going to look like.
Okay.
And as part of that architecture, this is one of the things plugs into that architecture. Right?
Okay. So at what point you will I don't know which are the like data center operators or who it is. You want to solicit the feedback. Any idea on that front? I'm trying to see.
So the OCP sustainability approved logo, what that means that need to be defined.
Okay.
Once we define that, then these are the building blocks for that, right?
No, I got it. But are we going to
Then-
invite or send it to some operators?
Yeah, but they are part of the things, right? We will reach out to them specifically, like even Shruti can take it to their companies and
Right. So when it
other
is
contacts.
in review, we will basically be reaching out to, you can be reaching out to folks outside OCP also to have, relevant folks who have knowledge, reach out to them for feedback.
So we will define whom we are going to go with, because there are so many of them, right? You may select top 10 or 12 or 16, whatever, right? And go after them, right?
Yeah, so how we might want to do this is sort of see that if we are, getting it reviewed by a list of folks, have we covered all ground?
Yeah.
Kind of. So have we had folks from, all the different aspects look into it? And that is more of, we sending it to folks and saying, hey, can you please do a review? After that part is done, the formal review is like with the project leads and then the steering committee.
Okay.
So that is the formal review within OCP.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I think as part of the, I don't know whether you've been in Kobe in the monthly calls. When white paper is getting published, they go through the OCP formal review and feedback process.
Okay.
And there are a lot of company people are from OCP are engaged.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I was involved in the past. It's been a while, so just want to make sure that some, right, feedback plus all the architecture definition, some proof points in a way, right? Those will be important so that you get traction, and then of course, open for changing the, measurement techniques if required and all those stuff, and go from there. Right? Yeah. The reason being, I represent a particular segment in a way, so that way it'll be very useful to get the input from them as well.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, if nothing else, probably we can close early today.
Okay, sounds good.
Then
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah.
We can see you guys. I mean, because we are not able to make it, so I will see you Shruti Monday.
Yeah, I won't be able to come,
Right.
so because of some whatever,
Sure.
other conflicts with the meetings and other things. But I'll definitely, I given the name of the person. If they come, please connect with her, and then we can sync up offline.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kobe.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Yeah,
Bye.
good.
Bye-bye.